Hello! Welcome to Wait for Game, a podcast presented by Melee Stats. I'm your host, Community Wheat. And today we have an episode all about Shine. Shine, a really important tournament series that's affected all of us pretty personally. I've been to all but one, and I believe other two people have went to every single one. So obviously there's a lot of love to go on, and we have pretty much a perfect person to bring on to talk about it. An icon in the New England Melee scene, just someone who's got like a steel trap for all the results in the world, and a huge hip hop fan to boot. And of course, talking about my good friend Edwin Budding. What's going on, man?
I'm doing great. I had a wonderful weekend at Shine. I'm sad that this is the last event ever. But I'm really thrilled to talk about it, to talk about the legacy of the event overall, to just jump into all things New England. So I'm happy to talk to you, Wheat, and I'm also really thrilled to finally have Stock Money on Waiting for Game. Stock, how's it going?
It's going well. I haven't been on a Melee Stats podcast since 2018 for Shine 2018. And the last time, I think it wasn't Fade at that point. It was still Air. And I spent half the episode talking about the pools and the other half brutally roasting Europe. So we'll see if I can't get there yet. But otherwise, I'm thrilled to finally be on. Thanks
What
for the
a
invite.
different time.
Yeah,
That
right?
was the MS versus Europe kind of cage match era, and now all you have to do is fly out a bunch of their players, and suddenly they love you. So word to the wise. If an entire continent hates you, just keep flying out their Donkey Kongs until they like you.
Money
And
Yeah,
talks,
and
dog. Money talks.
it's
and
true.
who knows, you'll eventually find your own assortment of fanboys, fangirls, fandoms, all kind of fans if you go over there that'll always show appreciation for everything we've done.
All right, so Shine just wrapped up this weekend. This was the sixth installment. So the first one, 2016, and then obviously a few years off for the pandemic. But Stock, you've been there since the beginning, right?
Yeah, I've literally been there since Shine 2016. Honestly, what's funny about it is that as far as being an established deal at that point, I was really only a year in. So I was kind of pulled in. I had kind of studied under Colin more so than anyone else. Like when New Game Plus moved to the church where it was at for a few years before it finally found its home at Balance Patch. And I had just started TOing for Hog because Rolled Gold and Schminkeldorf had wanted to transition out of that in Connecticut. And so I had already been doing pretty well there. I mean, I'd done some content pieces for them. And I was originally brought on more so for commentary management. It wasn't really until I'd say Shine 2018 I kind of took more of a lead role because I was still pool captaining. So I remember the last one at the Seaport, Colin's no, you're not pool captaining this one. I need you for more things. And that's when I was okay, I think we've kind of made it to the big time. So it was pretty cool that I always considered myself a lead TO for it. But seeing the credits and seeing myself listed as head melee TO for it, it's full circle. I think a lot of my TO and career I owe it all to Big Blue because they really taught me a lot and they took a chance on a 19-year-old kid. I mean, I'm turning 27 in a couple months. It's kind of wild to see things go full circle. And, I've been there from the beginning and I really think we nailed it with this one. So,
yeah. Truly. Yeah. No, it's bittersweet, right? I mean, obviously, having something like this that's so important to a region that is, for a long time, really important to the scene. It's really sad to see it go, but at the end of it, I can't help but think that it was nice to know that it was going away, right? I know that I was at the final one, and I know a lot of people wanted to make their way to the final one. And in the wake of what we've been seeing recently, right? I went to the final main stage. I didn't know it was the final main stage. I could have very well went to the final pound without knowing it was the final pound, right? We are in an era where a lot of stuff's popping up, but there's a lot of stuff that's going away, and this is a transition era. This is how it's always been. Every few years, we cycle in new tournaments and cycle out old ones. And it's just one of those things where it's a real shame, but I'm just glad I got to be there and experience the moment while we all knew it, because a lot of times we don't appreciate what's getting put into the scene. You only appreciate it afterwards. So it was really nice to be able there and be with everyone else who was there for that very reason. Edwin, this is your home region. You want to talk to me a little bit about Shine meant to you? Obviously, Stock being someone who worked on it meant something very, very, specific. But what about you? Just as kind of like someone who grew up in the region, started playing Melee with that region. What does Shine mean to you?
Yeah, so I love Shine. It's always going to hold a special place in my heart as the first major I ever went to in person, a major held in Boston. The Massachusetts, the state where I grew up. I started playing Melee through the Connecticut scene, but Boston, the original Seaport location was so fantastic, and I also did really well at the first Shine, so I was pretty happy about that. Shine was always a series I looked forward to every year where all my friends in the Northeast would show up. We'd hang out in Boston. And even later when it moved to Worcester, I'm not going to speak the graces of Worcester, but it was still a fun time. There were places around for us to hang out. The venue was fine and everything. And the one thing I'll say about Shine, and I feel like a broken record because I talk about this every time Shine comes up, it really was for North American events at least the ultimate player major. It's the only event which every year that I'd tell everyone to go to if playing Melee is your number one objective of going to a major and that's what you want to do with your friends and that's how you want to bond with them, you're not going to find a better like big major than Shine for that. This is something and a focus of the staff and the whole team running the event that I just think was so extraordinary compared to the other majors. Other majors have setups, but they really don't prioritize the player and the attendee as far as playing the game goes, quite like Shine does. It's the only major I've never felt has run short on setups. And I can say that having attended every single Shine. So whether you're playing in an amateur bracket or a lane bracket or whatever, whether you're playing matches and playing best of 5 as early as round 2 pools, or whether you just want to sit down on a setup and play with your friends, Shine was just really it was the Melee players major and I suppose the Smash players major too. And I think that's a perspective and that's an approach to event running that I'm gonna really miss as far as Shine goes, but I think it's one that needs to be represented in the major ecosystem. The only other thing I want to add to this, if I can, is that I think the era in which Shine ran 2016 to 2023 for me it holds a really special place in my heart because because Shine was almost like as far as if I had to pick a tournament that in a tournament series that encapsulated my relationship with the Melee scene, sort of when I started to be more involved beyond just, the time when I was a local attendee and running tournaments in my college. 2016 to now was that time period. And Shine was a consistent and literally and figuratively you know, it was literally and figuratively close to home for me. So just, that period of time from then to now through the remaining Evos that we had, through the summits that we had, Shine's presence in the scene is just something that will always be very near and dear to my heart. And I can't thank, in all sincerity, I can't thank people like Stock and the entire like Big Blue Esports team for providing me, that source of joy and that experience that I had through my 20s. In many ways symbolic of like my love for the game and how it's evolved, through the years beyond what I could have ever imagined in college. So yeah, I'm gonna miss the series, but I think there'll be a lot of lessons to take away from it, and I think it represented an important perspective that will hopefully be represented by something else in the future. And I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see what the takeaway is here for. And just the last thing I want to mention here, just really quickly, I know that the people behind Shine did state that at the end of this Shine that there would be a big write up into the finances of running an event like this and what this actually looks like, what the financial scale of running an event or replicating an event like Shine would be again. And I'm very curious to see how that turns out because I think there's a lot of lessons and takeaways that 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 could prove fruitful for anyone in the scene.
Great way to sum it up, man. That means the world. And I mean, we were really transparent. I mean, me personally, I was involved in like the commentary finances end of it, but even there's stuff that like I don't even like comprehend for it. And as far as like a player, the players major. I mean, the whole reason, and I talked about it briefly with like that yearbook thing Jules and I talked about at the start of day 2. The whole reason Shine became a thing in the first place that kind of expedited the process is that Big Blue was kind of the innovator of that whole like tiered division thing, like doing a round robin pool, then you end up in a whole separate bracket. At Bus 3, Bus 3 is still considered by many people. A lot of people in New England even view it in like higher regard. I mean, not that Shine isn't anything, but like they view it as like quite possibly the greatest regional ever run. As someone who's been and run many a
It
tournament,
was so
I still
innovative.
stand by that. Yeah. So the whole idea of like doing Shine was like replicating that on a larger scale. And I mean, you can even go and find on YouTube, like literally, I mentioned the church is like kind of one of the main venues for Big Blue. And there's a video of like 100 of us like reacting to like the announcement because it came out of nowhere. Like, and the turnaround time, because for context, Bus 3 was in November 2015, and they announced and they got Shine together for like August the next year. So I can't iterate enough how impressive these guys. They truly, just to add an addendum to what you said, they truly did the impossible and then some. I mean, I'll put it this way. Whatever major have you seen take PM literally out of the shadows into the main venue and had HDR with it too? We did
True.
quite literally everything. Every dream I could have ever had for a tournament, like for every Shine, we did it. Quad included. Like, unbelievable. So.
Yeah, I think as an attendee, I was definitely very shocked to see PM, but it's one of those things that like it helps the growth of the game, right? Obviously, that's a whole conversation about. So, but it lets credence to the idea that like it's a great thing to go to. Worcester's fine. I had fun in Worcester. I had fun in Chantilly, right? It's like there are ways to make fun for yourself. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. Could be better, but yeah, like just as an attendee, I've had such great experiences here. I honestly think that like, I haven't been to everything, but I've been to a lot of majors. I mean, I try to hit, at like the notable major series. I try to make sure that I'm able to go to at least one of them to kind of suss out how they are. And I don't know if there's anything that is ever going to top the location for the Boston Shine. It's just far and away like one of the best places to be, and you're also playing Smash there. It was very wonderful. It kind of encapsulated a lot of the feelings that we were talking about, kind of just like being at an era where a lot of people were growing up in the scene. It's interesting, right? I think if you look at how Melee is, we had a peak in 2016, 2017, 2018, kind of around there. And now we're having a little bit of we're bouncing back from COVID, right? Like basically every major tournament series has had higher numbers this year than it has had last year, with the exception of Genesis, which Genesis 8 did not have 1,500 people in attendance for Melee. If you don't count the DQs, that's the only one that actually went down. But yeah, it was a really special confluence of a lot of things. Like the college scene was popping off. That's how a lot of people got in the game. And obviously, if you're talking about something like Boston with a ton of colleges,
Oh yeah.
New England, a ton of colleges, like that is going to be an incredibly special thing. The Melee games, fits into that whole thing. It was just like, it's really indicative of a certain time and place. And I don't know if we really necessarily will be seeing that again. But I think the good thing is that, being of your era is not, it's not a bad thing, right? Shine was of its era for Smash, for Melee particularly, and then we will see something that encapsulates the era that we're currently in or going to be in soon, right? Like, I don't know. It's always sad to see something go away, but I how many times have we been on the show? How many times have we been in the scene and said like, oh, it's over, it's all over, and look where we are. So, I think one of the important things to do when it comes to something like this is to just be grateful that we had it, right? We can waste a lot of time going all doomer and, talking about how sad it is that Shine is gone. But, it's important to appreciate that we had it in the first place, because the hard work that was put in there, I think, like, it was evident, right? We talked about it, how, like, every single, drop of effort, it showed. And I'm happy to be able to attend it, to be a part of it in any way possible. I'm just glad that I was able to exist in Melee at the same time that I was existing in Melee. But Is there anything else we want to say on the tournament at large, or should we just get into this one? Because, you know, we can kind of jerk ourselves off about, like, how important this series is, but, like, this tournament was good, right? You know, this tournament was good even independent of the fact that this is the last shine. This was a fun tournament to watch. And, of course, you know, there was some fucking DQs and stuff, unfortunately. Like, that is just going to happen. And you can't really account for it. You know, Mango's gonna miss his flight. There's obviously going to be burnout for these players who are going to a lot of different things. So there's some unfortunate aspects of like DQs that kind of maybe made some of the results weird. But like honestly, you know, you talk about player majors. Shine has been one where that is evident through not only attending but through the bracket itself. Like the results here are so fucking wild. We know people who went like 2-2 and they lost to like really two good players. Like, dude, the 193rds, the 129s, like you probably got eliminated by like two good ass players.
Oh,
so
yeah.
like there's the results of this tournament is always super fun. One thing I mentioned, I forget who I was talking to, but I was like, you know, if you go to tournament day one or day one of Melee, whatever that is, you like have a good idea of what is happening, right? If it's noon, likely everyone's kind of just like starting to play. Round one is happening, stuff like that. But with Shine, it's like 2 p.m. and there's fucking battles happening, right? It's like early in the day, and there are some of the best matches. So it's like there's Melee all around. There's insane matches. You know, Stock, you are obviously, you know, you helped run this. Like you're definitely a TO at heart. But if there's something I know you for more than that, it's your fucking bracket fiend. You love to snort up all those matches. Now I've worked at tournaments and I found it hard to, you know, keep track of what's going on. Sometimes you gotta like catch up after. Did you get a chance to like spectate anything? Did you get a chance to look through the brackets of anything?
Oh yeah, what was nice about this shine in particular is like we had the best fucking problem you could ever have at a meet. We had too many volunteers. Like it was incredible. So I quite literally, other than Friday where I ran like top 32 doubles and crews with Colin, the only time I ever had to really bracket run was like that last top 48 wave. So like I was spectating the entire time. I had the stream support. I remember for like 2 hours, it's just Jake and I like literally like going over like all these like crazy round two pools and whatnot. But I actually got to spectate a good bit. I didn't get to go in the crowd as much as I want because I was very much like point man at the desk along with him. But like, oh no, I got to spectate the shit out of this. I got to see. I mean, personally, I wish some of the New England fellows were able to kind of clutch it out in some situations. I definitely watched Squid's Laugh, definitely brutally murder two of my gamers game 5. But, you know, we'll take the 3 and 4 stocks that we witnessed along the way, and those sets good. But no, I mean, like, it was incredible. I mean, like, one of my favorite things as far as, like, how dedicated some of these people were spectating, and I took a picture of this, too, on Twitter, is, like, Khalib literally grabbed his phone, some crazy ass Android. I didn't even know you could do this, and zoomed all the way in from the TO desk and could unironically watch Ricky versus Grab like in like watchable quality, like from there. Like you could look anywhere and there's like straight hitter matches going on, but like it was pretty cool. And to iterate on what you said, even with the DQs, I think I ended up recruiting like 40 of the top 100, which all things considered, when you consider that the Midwest, a lot of them didn't show. Probably some of those players are like pseudo retired. Like I was actually like, for one thing, I was like surprised to see Just Joe and the Riptide attendees, but we'll get to that later. But like, and you know, et cetera, et cetera. Like even with TK, I think it was really only Mango and Junebug that I can remember out top. So that's like still 38. And that's just like of last
Moki DQ
and but that's like a Moki and Wally, like they played out. Yeah. We'll call that 0.5. 3 DQs. We'll call theirs as half DQs. We'll call it 3 DQ. I don't care. 37. Dog, I don't see what tournaments getting that kind of attendance, top 100 attendance other than Big House and Genesis. I'm gonna keep it a stack. Maybe Riptide this year because this Riptide's very stacked. But that's the thing is the caveat of this before we kind of dive into it more is like that's just 37 from last year. As far as the top 50, I forget the number I said, but I would know it was at least half of them. of this year's top 50, and thinking of the top 100 in general, I mean,
Yeah,
shit.
people who are gonna end up being
Yeah,
top
like
100.
shit.
I mean,
I
literally,
wouldn't be surprised we end the year with 50 to 55 people on that who went to this. This tournament
yeah.
was unbelievably stacked. And
I
It
think
felt like
this
I was
tournament-
watching some people making top 100 just from this
Yes.
tournament alone.
Yes,
right?
I completely agree, Wheat. I think there's a lot of people that will exit this tournament with that were, maybe outside shots for making the ballot that are now suddenly like ahead of the rest of the field that they used to be in for the bottom end of the top 100 list. I think that's like
Dog,
super
if
cool.
I'm the reason Sir Maris gets fucking like ranked high, not only have I done my job, but I Kale Money, wherever you out there, man, number 2 in West Virginia, that's absolutely eclipsed by Sir Maris, but is an absolute legend. You know, I gave him my all, man. I did it for you. I got the go. Cause I mean that's one person. You talk about my bracket watching. I haven't shut the fuck up about that guy since like probably when he went off at PGH Presents Fuck You, like however many years ago that was. So say lovey. But that's an interesting point though, Edwin. I didn't think about that. That literally this tournament like actually might be just straight up the reason like a good
kind of
amount
my
of
point.
yeah.
But sure. No,
Both your
right,
points.
sorry.
Oh my god, dude, we're like
so
15 minutes. Yeah, oh my god,
I'm
you
not
two are broke.
jealous. I just want the record to be straight. It was my point.
Okay, it's
I came up with the recent breakouts topic.
You calling me jealous? I think you're just projecting. Anyway,
oh my god, we're all the best pundits. Relax. We're gonna have a dick measuring contest later. Let's get into it.
Stock, you're a bracket watcher. Was there anything from here that really stood out to you? I think there's a couple. There's actually like a couple runs. You know, we talk about people who could make top 100 just off the back of this alone. There's a couple people who come to mind. But like, who do you think of when you think of someone who like really made their rank here?
Okay, I mean the obvious one is Jude. Jude is that's the breakout one ever. Like I ended up talking to Ricky about it, and those two had like an insanely close set where Ricky ended up managing to clutch it out. And I had a feeling that Jude was gonna do pretty well in losers. Ended up, one of the slots he got was, I believe, Malachi DQ'd. So that gave Bungo a spot that allowed Jude to get by. But Jude didn't have an easy run by any measure. I mean, the losers one, if I remember, was like Jib, Bungo, Maelstrom, then Zuppy, Grab. Strong ass run to 17th, losing to Lunar, who Lunar also had a pretty good one. I mean, Kem comes to mind as someone who did pretty phenomenal. I mean, I honestly, out of all the upsets, Kem Axe is easily the least surprising to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
I just think like I think we just know how good Kem is. If anything, I was more surprised he didn't drop a game to Grab. I was like, wow, this guy.
That's very impressive that he beat Grab in the Ditto like that. That's very shocking.
Oh, I was referring to Kem, but Jude, yes, but same.
Yeah.
I was talking about Jude there, but Jude, no, Jude did really strong there. I talked to him about it, and he said they were pretty tight games, but he snuck a 3-stock in there for the fans, and I view Grab to be pretty highly in that matchup too. I mean, I definitely watched Grab Shamble our boy Calvar there. Other people that are of note, I mean, this is probably a lot of people's first introduction to New England Q. Not the original New England Q, who's a Marth player in SoCal now. But this is Q, who had just started going to events right before the pandemic, grinded out net play, and kind of got his first debut. Kind of had a rough one versus Wally in top 48, but otherwise, had reverse trio versus Dr. Lane, beat Kada, who's also, a fairly strong tri-state player. Beat Hex Show. Kind of had to take out a good amount of New England people, which is unfortunate, but certainly a good performance from his end. I mean, Inky continuing to prove why we think he's so good. Just a lot of good ones. And what's funny is some of the most interesting runs to me are people that just missed top 48 too. This top 48 was really strong and very entertaining, but like some of the cooler ones are like people that just like missed it and got like 49th. Like for example, Stock Gaming's Ember, who ran through Unsure and E Poodle. Heard there were some feelings there. That's That's how the cookie crumble.
Before graciously losing to Koopa Troopa. Very nice.
Yeah,
Thank
you know,
Ember.
at the end of the day, I love melee stats, and I just had to give one to y'all. Truthfully, I think she might have threw that set a bit.
I had a elevator ride with her before that, and she told me her bracket path, and I said, I hope you beat everyone but Koopa. So, I don't know who she threw it for. If it was for you or for us, who knows?
Well,
but,
see, what's tough is that I have so many times that Koopa plays where I'm just like, against like a friend of mine, I'm just like, he's inevitable.
Truly.
He's inevitable. And not even, by the way, her run is actually not even crazier than that, because like the people she made it to beat to make it out of pool, like going to your point of like how some people lost the stuff. I mean, she had to beat Harut and Augie too. The artist formerly known as Carlos Danger. Personally, buddy, I think you should change your tag back. That tag slaps, but
that is not an easy bracket.
No, and unsure and E-pool, like, dude, what?
Yeah, it's a lot of like secret, or not even secret. There's just a lot of like heavy hitters in that bracket, even if they're not like top 100 names. Just beating them all cumulatively is actually insane.
People are saying this tournament had some of the hardest round one pools of all time, and I'm inclined to agree with them because, like, well, I see that. So, like, I was like along with Tom and a little help from our friend Weed over here. But like, I mean, I'm looking at like some of these matchups, and I remember like, on my like It's Always Sunny, like Pepe Sylvia shit, like Jesus Christ, like we got to go a little bit deeper. Like these are like insane, and like you're seeing one of the most interesting people who was at, like, you see, I mean, so many different regions. I mean, if you told me the year before we'd have two of the Alberta top 3, or rather top 4 at a tournament, I'd be like, you're nuts. But like, you get these people who like Melee Stats Net Play Chat, Darling SSB the Fox. This was his first ever like LAN tournament ever. Not just like
That's so wild.
Not just like a low, like, first major, like first national, like first tournament, and like, almost made it out of round one pools. A lot of crazy stuff. I mean, you got E-Poodle Stone to make it out of like round one pools. That could be, given the right circumstances, that could be a top 64 match at something like, or like,
Yeah, right.
all these like really hard, like to get on your point, to go back on your point for a second, Edwin, like that's what this tournament was like. The Melee Stats are like bracket themed enthusiasts, like dream bracket. You have so many like interesting matches. Like, where are you going to see Lowercase Hero versus like Michael D. Keith or anywhere else? Where are you going to see, even Koopa Troopa Ember anywhere else? Like,
True.
so many fun sets like that. Where are you going to see Wally actually entering singles? Not anywhere else. That's for damn sure.
Still half entering singles, but yeah.
So, no, it's honest. So many good sets. And I will say, probably the best tournament you could have ever possibly had for the qual.
I mean, I think that all of his points were correct. Obviously, he had to disappear into the ether. He was going too close to the truth. Someone needed to take him out. Excited to hear what he says when he comes back. But honestly, yeah, I mean, like he's just spitting all what he's saying is correct. Like these brackets are insane. Now we talked about Jude. I think, yeah, Jude is just like a perfect example of a player who I think is just like good, like, right? Formerly Error, formerly what was Greasy before that, and like Jude, I've just seen for years as like really good, and didn't expect more. And like literally, you can look at results this year that don't really show it, and just like it all came together, right? We can talk about the Zuppy win. I think that's insane. Zuppy, obviously a player who's had some upsets, and it's Fox Marth, but like, dude, I've seen Zuppy destroy some Marth players.
Oh yeah,
2 fucking weeks ago he did it to Kadoran, and yeah, like to go even further into it, if you're not impressed by Marth beating a Fox, the grab 3-0 is just insane, dude. Yeah, someone else who I think falls in that line is JoJo, right? JoJo, a player who's been like so good forever, and obviously there's a DQ in the path, but like B-Bat's money, I think that for JoJo, it's less of like a surprise, and like these are stuff that not only are doable. Like JoJo's done this before. I think JoJo beat Mott last year. I think JoJo's beaten B-Bats at like nightclub or something like that. It's just getting to see it all happen in one run. That is like what is actually, the thing that could potentially make a whole top 100 thing.
Oh yeah.
What do you think, Edwin? Who's like a breakout player that you saw here, or even just like this is the week or the month of SmashCon. We've had some other like pretty stacked regionals. Any players who like from here or just like events in August in general who've like really stood out to you?
Yeah, of course. So Stock, you mentioned this player a little bit before, but I think it's really funny the timing of this player and his breakout, or what's been his recent stretch of events. Because Sir Maris, I've always known this guy was good. He made the top 100 last year. He was obviously on my ballot and everything. But his August has actually been kind of nuts. Like he beat Null at SmashCon, but as far as this event goes, I mean, you got a win over Quang. This is someone who might be in top. I'm just going to give a random number like 75, 85 contention. That's a pretty solid win. You have him defeating someone. You have him defeating someone like Ben, who we know is in contention for top 30 potentially by the end of the year, maybe even higher if Ben continues improving. And he even grabbed a win over. I think this is the most crazy win that may not be reflected in the rankings right now, but I think a win on Ja Ryden is pretty good, right? In a context where Ja Ryden just won an event over Pipsqueak, beating him 2 sets and everything. Winning 2 sets over Pipsqueak. That's crazy. And this is just in like the span of 2 events. I want to see more of Sir Maris after this. I guess like if Sir Maris goes to an event, like he's just gonna beat a top like 75 or 100 player. Like it's inevitable. It will happen. So yeah, he's someone that I think not only did well at this tournament, but seems really poised to kind of carry it at whatever subsequent event he goes to. So
the good thing about Sir Maris is that so he recently moved to Ohio, so he's no longer in the West Virginia vortex.
I didn't know that.
He's able to go to more stuff, like he's around an airport that actually can fly places, right? Like he's going to be able to go to more things. I know he's signing for Riptide. I think Big House is something he wants to go to. So in the future, I would not be surprised to see him go to more stuff, and also give us results that we don't have to get so excited about Peach beating a Luigi. I love your enthusiasm, man. Don't think it was the most impressive thing he did.
John Ryden's crazy.
That set, what's so stupid
Ben,
about that
dude.
set? Yeah, that's what's so stupid about that set is that literally games 4 and 5 were shorter than games 1 through 3. That set was an ass clencher for sure. Like, oh god. I mean, but Sir Maris's mental game is incredibly impressive because in all 3 sets we talked about, they were grueling, absolutely fucking grueling. Particularly like the Ja Ryden one, but I mean Ben certainly doesn't make it any easier.
No.
Let alone a DK somehow managing to survive in that match, which is funny. I got to talk to Quang, and I said to Quang once you figure out the Captain Falcon matchup, best player in the world, and he's like, I got more problem matches than that. He said Peach was probably the one he's most, I guess, concerned about. Which I mean, okay, character that invalidates the majority of mid tiers in this game. Go figure, right? So, no, I mean that was yeah. I mean we've all seen with players like Sir Maris, JoJo, maybe less so Jude, but Jude's definitely shown moments of it. We're seeing this was a good tournament for seeing people kind of put all the pieces together.
Sure.
My only regret with JoJo, in spite of some great wins, I would have loved some zealous Marth action, but zealous 5,000 spacies are ridiculous. I mean, if he beat Nick Marcus Glock with who, by the way, Glock over Chango is the least surprising thing of my entire life. By the way, that's so unsurprising, but beating him with presumably Fox, definitely not Falco. That's kind of nuts. A lot of fun play like Zio, Lord Zio coming out clutch. That was, oh my god, that was so fun.
I gotta say, when I saw Zio and Calvar, when I saw that they were ready to play, I had a feeling of the way that set was gonna go.
Did you have a feeling of how it was gonna end?
with a 4 stock.
With a 4 stock from Zeno?
Yeah, I thought it might be ugly.
Yeah, I mean, I got some. So I finally got some of the. I got my Splash Explorer thing up. So some interesting ones. You had Hani Dune, who's an old school New England player, beating Danilo and Squibble to make it
Oh.
out of that pool. That was something.
How
Padre.
legal a controller is Squibble playing on right now?
Squibble's on the Prism. He's
Okay.
big vibing.
Moving on from his own creation.
Yeah. Yeah, the shoebox, right? At Gommel, his Gommel results were he said I got to talk to him and he said right before he got to his pool, he like tripped and like broke the entire thing. Like it went into like a million pieces. And I was just picturing like this guy putting back like the fucking Millennium Puzzle together and then like getting possessed by Yami Yugi like as soon as he got it. But you know, you have other ones like Stuff over Made in China, which is like what the fuck, like that one was completely that. You have Padre over Danny Phantom, which by the way, Padre had no idea who that was. Like he comes to the desk and Jorge are like, oh my god, like he's like, you know, Danny Phantom's like a top, like, you know, pretty strong player. Maybe like I didn't really say like top 100, but like, you know, within striking range for sure. Um, you know, me personally, my biggest tragedy. Well, actually, I just found out Younger didn't make it out of pools. I actually didn't know that. Because I was going to mention his brother who drowned. I was so sad that Adust didn't. I wanted the Adust like glory to come out, but Plush is too good. Plush is simply too good.
It's just
Dude,
this entire
it's so-
tournament. It's just battles over battles.
Lexor,
It's so-
I didn't even know some of these results. Like, what is going on? Like, I knew Chad won, lost to Maximus. Who Maximus? If you're somehow watching this, I definitely underrated you too hard. I'm sorry, but like stuff like that. I mean, beat you over Young Neil, Amma over Lexor. Well, so yeah, and then Llama.
Dude,
over...
this is the problem. Like we're getting caught into the vortex of all these insane round one like.
It's
Quang
and
on
that's
the
just
Vortex,
round one.
by the way.
Yeah,
That's yeah. Oh god, Vortex. That's just round one. The round two ones were equally as wild too. I mean, Lord Cleash going off,
True.
Itai proving that he's the original and superior. Fox
Yeah,
Puff
Itai,
Fox Puff
3-0
player
Palpa.
over. That was also unfortunately not surprising at all. That
Sorry, the
guy's
Palpa's
back.
growth.
He's back. He moved back from Israel like literally 3 weeks ago. I get like a message from him and Mont Money being like, "Hey, like my Vax card is all in Hebrew. Like we think we're gonna be good here." I'm like, buddy, how do you think Ja Ryden's making this? I'm like, I have so many funny anecdotes like that. This was my dream tournament, not only in execution, but as far as like matchup wise. This is the type of shit that keeps me up at night. Me personally, I mean, I love this top 12. I watched the whole thing. I can't say I do that for a lot of tournaments, to be honest, because what I live for, like, I mean, you two know this. I live for like these crazy ass round one, round two,
round
top
two,
48
that's it,
ones. Yeah. And this was a paradise for that, for sure.
It's always great to have a tournament that can do that and also have a great top end. Because right, we've talked about it. We talked about it recently about how like years ago it used to be like the cool thing was to be like, I actually think round two pools are the most fun, and like I think it took us a little bit to realize that it's just because the top end kind of sucked, right? Like obviously ton of fun things. It's always fun. I've watched like all those tournaments. I would never like stopped. Well, I actually did stop watching Shine 2019 because I foresaw the H-Bucks dub from a mile away. But like, right, we used to talk about how like, oh, round two pools are so cool. And now I think with all the top players we have, we realize just how good we have it now. Where like, it wasn't that the round two pools were always so much better. It was that the top end kind of was a little stagnant, was a little top heavy. And now we've seen this like blow wide open here. And obviously like some insane results here. Nothing says this more than going into the tournament and being like, okay, well, can Aklo win a major now? Is that something that can happen, right? STJ obviously had a really insane run that kind of ended pretty quickly once they got to top 12, but like still an insane run nonetheless. Like this top 12 obviously, if you know, is the work of some GQs, but really I'm not going to hold that against it too much. All these players who got here got there because of really insane wins, really insane victories, some losers runs here. Like it was just, I don't know. I don't want to say it feels like a new era because it's felt like this for a little bit, and also Shine top 12 last year also had like Mech and Bobby. Like it's always, and like Panko was in there. It's always been
Panko, my goat.
yeah, right. Like it feels like it's always like I don't know for whatever reason. For whatever reason, Shine always feels like it's ahead of the curve on all these players, even though that's not how bracket works. And yet, like you look at Shine brackets, and they always feel like something is happening there, right? Zain won Shine, that was his first tournament, right? It always feels like the breakthrough for so many people. We already talked about like Jude and JoJo and all these people who felt like they made their breakout here. And like it raises the question: is this going to be not the breakout, but is this going to be setting the tone for the rest of the year? We saw some insane sets, right? We saw Cody and Zain swapping 3-0s, and then we saw a fucking Game 5 barn burner match to end in Cody's favor. And the question that I have is, like, we've seen so many trends get set by Shine, right? We've seen players come in, get ranked top 100 based on the basis of that. We've seen Zain win. We've seen him, start his major winning career. Is this the start of something new for Cody? What do you think, Stock? You've, I know that you were not able to watch it live. I think you had to head out. But what are your thoughts on this grand finals? What are your thoughts on Cody's ability to keep this going?
Thankfully, I did get to watch it live, actually, which is pretty cool.
Shit!
Yeah. I it was only really like the losers top 12. I was like all acclimated and home by like, by the time we got to like the actual top 8, I had to like listen to some of the other ones. But no, like, I mean, even, and it's funny you say that because I think kind of one of the precursors to, and even though I would say, so Shine 2019, I'd say probably had the least stacked top 8 in the scheme of things. And that a lot of that's due in part to the Plup DQ. That really sucked that year. Plup wasn't feeling well. And that one was interesting because it was like a precursor to kind of Lot era. But that one, when I saw Cody like top 3 that one, I was like, okay, this guy's like, really legit. And another fun anecdote before I talk about what I think about that is I swear to God, this guy gave me like the Megan Thee Stallion, like when I like go to give him like the doubles medal, he like looked at me like he was like gonna slit my throat for a second. Like, I think he channeled that dark arcane energy into probably my favorite run of his ever. Like this was a really fun run for him, and that was like probably. I mean, I'll pose this to both of you. Like, was that the best sets those two have ever played in your opinion? I'll pose that to you.
Edwin, what do you think? We talked about what it was Genesis 8 winner semis, right? We've talked about how that is like the two people who are just shoving each other around, and like it was incredible offense, incredible defense. It felt like no one made a mistake. It felt like everything had to be outplayed, and they've had some good sets since. Obviously, they've had some ones that have been like really back and forth. On the LACS one, which was a comeback for Zain, the Battle BC one, which was a comeback for Cody. Like they've had these really interesting sets that mirror each other, and it's very fitting that they mirrored 3-0s off of each other. I don't know, like in terms of if you just watch it all the way through, I do think that having 2 blowouts is a little bit of a, it takes away from it. But watching it there after the Cody 3-0 and winners finals, and then seeing Zain like claw back and just going, is this gonna be it? Is this all we're gonna see? Is this just gonna be a 6-0? And then suddenly watching Cody come alive. Watching it all at once was just an experience that I think it will be hard to top because all the sets that we talked about aren't in grand finals, right? I talked about winner semis. I talked about losers semis. I talked about what was LICS losers. Was it losers finals, losers semis? I'm blanking. But like being in grand finals of a tournament that Cody has never won, right? Cody has not won a Shine. Last chance to win a Shine. Zain could recapture Shine again, right? Third time. I think that
third time. Yeah,
do that. Yeah, so that'd be 3 out of the 6. Like the stakes were high, and obviously it being the last one, obviously, like it led to all this. So I don't know. In terms of pure gameplay, probably not. But what it represented and what it was, and in fucking grand finals of a bracket, I would say yes, because I watch this set and I think about everything that we're going to see after, right? If we get to see these players, if we're like getting to be graced by their presence for years to come, that is going to be a set that we're going to see a lot of. We're going to see a lot of that. We're going to see a lot of it in grand finals. So Maybe it won't be the best for long, but for right now, I'm gonna say fuck yeah, why not? Let's call it the best one they've ever played. What do you think, Edwin?
I think it's the one that's most symbolic of their rivalry and the type of sets that we've seen from them. I'm actually going to make a bit of a historical comparison right now. I think the dynamism in this rivalry between one of the players just blowing the other one out, the other one suddenly, taking the rivalry by the horns, and then suddenly they have a barn burner. It actually reminds me a lot of Mango Leffen back when that was,
Mm,
before
okay.
Mango went on his like latest streak, which is ongoing right now. It somewhat reminds me of that, honestly, in terms of just every flavor of an entertaining or memorable that you can think of between these two has happened in the last like 2 years, like since Summit 11 or Summit 12. Well, one of those. I would say Summit 11, since that was the return of like LAN events for the decade after the pandemic. But I think pretty much every set they've had, like I remember either because it was so lopsided, or I remember because it was really down to the wire. And I think there's something really beautiful about Shine having three sets that showcased all these different flavors, right? And even the order in which they came in is pretty unexpected, right? Like when Cody 3-0'd him in winners finals, I thought, okay, we have something kind of like Phantom on our hands here, where Cody just smacks him up again in grands. That was not the case. Zain like speed ran him the first set of grands, and after the first game of the second set, I was worried. I thought, oh my god, is Zain just gonna is he just gonna 6-0 him? And Cody just really, gotta give that guy props. He turned it around. So really, because of what it stands for, and because of all the different elements of their rivalry contained on, like what we said, their first like major grand final showdown against each other. I think this has to be it. I think it I think it's got to be
Mm,
the most compelling set they've ever had. And if I could add one thing from Cody's perspective on this, why I think this is interesting, I think for I'm not going to claim to speak for someone else, let alone speak for Cody, but I think for him it's almost like in that moment, he is the one thing stopping Zayn from basically locking number one for the year. Like
Yeah,
if Zayn wins this tournament, I think like the rest of the year would still be exciting. That we'd still love Melee and we'd still watch it. But I think it
it's a
basically
race for
would have been
second, and
yeah
honestly, feel might even be a race for third, right?
mhm.
Like, yeah, it completely changes. We talked about it. Talked about it last week about how just like there's not a ton of stuff left, and obviously there's going to be stuff, and there is stuff. The Big House is going to be, I think Big House is going to be very big. I don't have any knowledge to that, but like it's going to be big. It's going to be important. We're going to have other stuff where people play each other. But yeah, I mean, if Zayn wins this one, it's a different world we live in. Um,
It's
so
the only time I've ever rooted for Cody over Zayn.
okay,
I'll,
dude.
I'll
and this
confess
was
that.
like what was interesting. I think he needed this one. His battle of BC was like really impressive. Pound for pound, this might not be like as powerful as that one because that one was nuts. I mean, you had Zuppy, Leffen, the Zane, the J move, the two omps, the sets, that type of thing. But I think like he had been kind of trailing off. He's kind of had like a lot of ones this year where he's like been just at the cusp. I think the two big first places he had this year were that and major
Major
upset.
upset
Yeah,
also.
Yeah,
major
Yeah.
upset. He had had like some seconds and thirds, and I think since that May he had been kind of like dragging his feet a little bit, starting to get like some energy back at SSC. But no, I think he needed this, and I think honestly, I think the ball's like in his court now. So if I had to go back to like your original question, I think moving forward, I think he has a very strong chance of maybe ending this year number one. He had
yeah,
like I really do. I mean, it depends on Riptide's gonna really send the tone. Obviously, we got the World Series coming up. I always call Genesis Super Bowl and Big House the World Series. We got that in the works, though. I'm not sure if that'll quite work with his health schedule, but I don't think
yeah.
he's really discussed that yet. So we'll see. But I mean, at the very least, we will have quite a show in about a week from now. There, I do genuinely think as much as someone who admittedly like does tune out for a lot of these top eights, I'm actually like way more invested in seeing who's in like the top 10 at this point than here. Than I haven't been in that level like in quite some time, and I'm really excited to see where it goes from here. And also, thank God H Box wasn't at this tournament. Oh my God, that's another. But that's another thing entirely. So, yeah, no, I definitely think he's got a strong one here to kind of. He's got two of the best first places I've seen this year,
Yeah.
and I only wish the best to him. And yeah. So
I think what you mentioned is kind of unfortunately a bit of the sad truth is that like this will be depending on his health. Cody, I don't know what he did in a past life, but like this is the story every year, right? It's like how we talked about Leffen, but Leffen was kind of almost always out of his own devices, except for kind of the Visa stuff. It's always like, what if Leffen didn't also play Guilty Gear? How good? What if Leffen didn't pick up Smash Ultimate? What if he didn't play Dragon Ball Fighters? And unfortunately, those what ifs are a lot sadder for Cody because it's a lot of like life stuff that's happening. Obviously, health stuff now. It was health stuff last year with his hands, and obviously a lot going on that we don't need to get into. So that is kind of the unfortunate thing there. But like he talked about it in his interview, is that like he wants to compete. He wants to keep Jonan. He's got surgery coming up, and then if it's like this week, he'll go to Riptide. If it's next week, then he might not be able to. But he's like literally trying so hard, and he's always been the type to try so hard, and that's like why it feels so gratifying to see him win. Even that, he's got a personality that can grate on people. I understand that. I've seen those clips. I've seen the clip of Plup. I'm not gonna get into what the clip is. Plup reacting to a clip of Cody's. But like, God, seeing him when he actually puts it all together, because we all know he can, right? We all know that like he could just be the best player. It's a gratifying feeling, and I hope to see him do it. I don't even know if he needs to get number one for me, but I just want to see him make it close because I know he can. And
I want him to challenge. I think Melee is more fun when Cody is challenging Zain and able to do things like
yes,
yeah, for sure.
Absolutely concur. And hey, good news.
Yeah.
While I was browsing his thing, he did say 7 hours ago, back to Melee, big house grind. So, fingers crossed. Looking, God, as someone who, to go at your point, I've warmed up considerably to him over the years, and I think this year, you can't just the roll of the dice him and Magi had towards the beginning of this year is something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. And to just see him kind of take it in stride and keep it moving there and there. One thing you can't say, regardless of what you think of the guy, he's a perseverant motherfucker. He's persistent, and he's gonna
been
go.
given too many reasons to get out of the game, and yet
someone sponsor his ass, like, for the love of Christ, or Eggdog, go all in on this man. That's come on.
One thing with
Eggdog merch.
Yeah, one thing I want to mention with Cody is that I think he's also, I love history. I love thinking of player legacies and things like that. I think Cody is like, I've written about this earlier in the year, before he won Shine. I think Cody is quietly like kind of carving his own path as someone who could potentially end his career as the greatest Fox player ever. And this is going to sound crazy because you have someone like Mango in the competition who has used both Fox and Falco to win various majors. You have someone like Leffen, whose success we're all pretty familiar with. But, if we talked about can Cody end number one, I do think it's kind of hard just given because of his personal and health issues potentially stopping him from attending as many majors as he may want. And in that time span, Zain may be able to attend those same events and career accomplishments. But as far as Cody's like own legacy goes, I mean, we're talking someone who's entering a group of players of like, I mentioned Leffen before, but even like PP and Azin are kind of there. And the more Cody wins, especially in a year like this one, or even heading into next year, I really think like I mentioned this after he won his second summit, that he was starting to enter like a very unique or like an extremely exclusive club of people who won multiple majors. And the more he continues to win majors and the more he continues to add to his legacy, the more I really think he should start being considered as one of, if not at some point in the future, the greatest Fox player of all time. And I think that's like, there's so many amazing Fox players today, but I truly think that even more than Leffen to an extent, and especially in the modern era, I think Cody SCHWAB like is Fox. Like I think his Fox is just like so beautiful to watch, and it's really like the one player who I've seen like him play the character, and he like makes Fox look like the best character in the game by far. And I think that it's like a feeling I don't get from a lot of players for their character. Like I think I just think Cody's legacy is just extremely impressive, and I can't wait to see how it develops the more he's in the game.
Shit. Yeah. Now that's interesting. I've never heard that one before. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I will agree that he does epitomize Fox right now. I'm big left till the day I die, though, so we'll see.
Cody definitely given us reasons to think that it's not an open and shut case, which
No.
you know, the history that the game has had going into this, and how what we've all seen. You know, if you got into the game through the doc or whatever, Evo, or like, I don't know, it's such an insane thing to even bring up the idea that maybe the best Fox player, we haven't even seen him yet.
It's
right?
it's so wild, right?
Like,
Like
this game. Insane?
This game has been out for 2 decades. It's like more than 2 decades. The idea of someone like Cody, like no one has ever been rank 1 with solo Fox, and the idea that Cody could suddenly do it and have this extremely like this imprint on Melee history that only he could claim to. Like I think that would be a hell of a story and just an incredible accomplishment.
Well, we've got some chances to see it happen. You did say it's going to be difficult, but we've talked about it that Cody doesn't seem to be any stranger to difficulties, unfortunately. So we'll see. I think that he's definitely a type of person who could make it through. It really just comes down to availability, right? If he's not able to go to Shine because of health or Riptide because of health, I just honestly think that does hurt, unfortunately. Yeah. He can't go to Big House for whatever reason. That's really going to hurt. We've got an interesting little fall coming up, right? We talked about it last week, but we've got kind of a mirror to what we had in the beginning of the year in a way, because at the beginning of the year we had a lot of tournaments that were not able to run. VGBC obviously was shutting down a lot of their tournaments, so it left a lot of holes in the scene, and I do think that the scene did a really great job of bolstering these tournament series up that kind of needed it, right? They needed it, we needed it. So we got to see Collision, that became a major. We got to see Major Upset, that became a major. These things that really like were kind of dipping their toes into Melee. Like we were able to show them so much love, and it's gonna kind of be something interesting at the end of this year, where we've got Big House, we've got Riptide, 2 established majors. Riptide, as I said, broke the entry count last year. Overall record for Riptide obviously would have to be 2021, where it was like the comeback major, but like they have more than they did last year. Big House had so many last year, trending upwards, and I think that honestly we could break that again. We could be the first the first year that 2 Melee singles events have 1,000 people in them.
I think it's gonna break
since 2018.
I'm like easily thinking it's gonna do that, to be honest. This Big House seems to have an insane amount of hype behind it. Not only for the fact that like the biggest tournament I know after it is like Santa Paws.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? It's like we have these huge tournaments, and I think that it's important for the scene to not be that myopic, because like there's 2 months after, and there's stuff in it. It's just about supporting it, right? Are we going to support Santa Paws or DreamHack or Arca Melee or
Is Arca Melee the only thing in November? I think that's the only thing I really saw happening in November.
Dude, I have seen some tweets from LTC, and they are giving some eyes emoji shit, but I don't know if that's even coming back this year. I don't know if that's going to be a next year thing.
Dude. I'm so over games in like 2023, especially in an era where like the landscape is open for you to like fucking get this shit. Like you said, if you told me like even like back in Circuit era like a year ago that Collision was going to be as big as stacked as it is, I'd say you're out of your fucking mind. But we live in a completely different world now, and like.
Yeah, so, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just like you said. It's not. Don't be myopic. It's the new series. The Phoenix can rise from ashes you might not have even seen from before. Or new flowers, whatever fucking analogy you want to use. There's some cool ass shit coming out. Support the fucking scene. That's all I
Yeah,
gotta say.
I mean, we've got Kilroy, we've got Out of the Blue. Like, I think one of the cool things about this year is, as I mentioned it earlier, I saw this trend. I found it today, so that's why I keep repeating it. Is that almost every major has better numbers this year than they did last year, and even like the smaller regional, like the smaller major-esque things, like Low Tide, still follow that trend. And you could see that and kind of say, okay, well, it's happening at the expense of regionals. It's not. We're seeing regionals that are bigger than ever. We're seeing, or not bigger than ever, but we're seeing like a lot of regionals. We're seeing new regionals pop up. We're seeing these scenes that were kind of not dying, but were not what they were before the pandemic. We're seeing them build back up, and I think that stuff like Kilroy, stuff like Out of the Blue, hopefully Cream City Convergence, the weird like Milwaukee Bucks tournament. Hopefully that type of stuff is able to pop up as well. But like we are seeing in between of these majors, we're seeing these regionals, and that's what's something that I think gets lost when we talk about, this beating numbers of last year, is just how many small tournaments there are. I remember like, last year, obviously it's related to COVID, but last year, if there wasn't a major, you're kind of shit out of luck, right? If you wanted to know life the weekend and just fucking order some Chinese food and watch Twitch like we all do, you were out of luck. There was if it wasn't a major on, there was nothing on, and yet here we are. There's stuff like every week. Well, not this week, but there's stuff almost every week. And that's one of the great things that is kind of lost in the cracks. We just talk about the big stuff. Edwin, what do you think? You hit a wheat a couple minutes ago, and then we kind of trailed on. But what are your thoughts on all this?
What were the two words that we constantly said all of 2022?
It was me who said it, and I said it was a buyer's market.
Do you think is it possible that in this current climate, with a lot of small events and very few big like official events, that we could be in a seller's market where people are realizing that, with the lack of circuits, with the sort of ambiguous ecosystem that we're in, that the one thing they can do to really keep the scene alive is not be too picky with tournaments and start going to whatever is available? Do you think it's possible that we've entered the opposite of that?
Well, we definitely were early on in the year, right? Buyer's market being the idea of there's so many tournaments that there's so many tournaments and they're slippy. So if you want to have people come out to your tournament, you got to give them something that they are not currently getting from a different tournament or from just sitting and queuing up on Unranked or Direct Connect or Ranked now. And like it used to be that, right? It used to be, are you a part of a circuit? Do you have 100 setups? Do you have it used to be all these types of things to try to entice people because you needed to. And then we got to a point early in the year where it was like, we're in a hotel ballroom. You guys are going to be like the second game. We're really an ultimate tournament. And like those tournaments became things that we now talk about as majors, right? J-Mook's collision win is like one of the most important things that he has on his resume. Cody, we already mentioned major upset, even though he's eclipsed with other wins. But like that is, if you're talking about what can make him number one, that tournament could help. And like, dude, who would have thought that last year, right? That like this tournament for that, like some little ultimate thing, some big ultimate thing, could like really move the needle there. But yeah, we're getting into kind of a weird thing where like we've had major 2 weeks, and then like a week off, and then another major, then a week off, then another major. So it does kind of feel like we are in like kind of a little bit of a, I don't know, like an oasis of sorts.
It's a weird ass lull, dude. The biggest tournament this week is like fucking Scenic City Smat. Like,
yeah.
It's not, but it's interesting what you say because like there is stuff to watch, but as far as like biggies, it's very far and few between. I don't know if you call it an oasis, like whatever. I get the analogy. I get the analogy that
we've got three majors.
Weird. That's what it
like
is.
6 weeks, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, you're right.
No, it's I'm happy with how we are, and maybe that's cope. But one of the things
I think for entrance, it's pretty grounded.
I am too. No, I'm like pretty, dude. It's the end of the convention center era. I said it at the start of it, like right when we announced that shit. I mean, because I will say, like, I expected going back to Shine, like I expected this to be the last one for many circumstances, but like, I think in general, I don't think scaling down is inherently a bad thing because
Yeah.
not everything lasts forever. And if you got to end some of these convention city center ones to have more of these like sustainable, like almost like a new breed of like super regionals becoming nationals, like your collisions, that type of thing. And also like leaning in more to the we might not be getting Evo again anytime soon, but lean into your dream hacks, get your organizers to talk to them more. You get your quad days putting their foot in the door with like fucking CEO, that type of thing. Like it's not a bad thing for us to collaborate with some of these other ones if it means that we get more sustainable endeavors. And I will say, like, the Shine was like entirely independent, like, which is nice because there's not as much of a delay with like payouts and whatnot. I mean, for Christ's sakes, we're literally starting to pay out people as of like today in some regards, so that's like unprecedented, really, which is kind of cool. But you gotta take your shots on it. And even though, and so I don't think it's a bad thing that, hey, there's a weekend of like we don't have like a big one to watch, but like you have fucking like 20, 30 odd regionals you could watch too. Like,
Yeah.
and some of these regionals, I mean, you mentioned like out of the blue. I mean, for fuck's sake, the first one of that, I was looking at that, I'm like, this could be like a national, like back in the day, like in some
Right.
regards. It's
I
crazy.
think it's tough to compare the years that are post-pandemic, and that's going to be something we're going to have for a little bit. That these years are so totally different, and like the reasons why is because of like a fucking you know virus that made us all stay inside forever. So like, it's impossible to look at 2021 and compare it to 2022 and compare that to 2023. But yet, if I were to do so, last year felt it was had these a lot of majors and it had obviously the circuit. It was exciting for sure. I'm not going to say it wasn't, but it kind of felt like if it wasn't a major, there wasn't a lot between it. And if you want to talk about sustainability, I don't know how sustainable that is. We're seeing a lot of tournaments that are smaller in scope, but getting a lot of players. We're seeing a lot of unique players. And I think one of the things that's really good about regionals is that if you look at like kind of how the top 100 was, if you look at like a lot of the 70s and stuff like that, they're not there just by majors alone. It was like a lot of like going to one or two majors and then getting a lot of your wins at like regionals, right? That's kind of how it used to be. It gives players a chance to play people who they might not play before, like the dreaded curse of going to a major and getting 49th, losing to people who are seated above you. It's just like, great, what does that tell us, right? You didn't beat anyone, you didn't lose anyone bad. But it gives players these chances to like break out. It gives these players chances to like be a part of the scene without spending $1,000 on like hotel, plane fare, registration, all that. I think it's super sick because we still have these majors, right? Where there are still things that people could get into, but having the infrastructure of the regionals and the locals rise up this year is something that we are going to see in years future, right? We might not see it this year. It just might not be something that like is readily apparent when we talk about 2023 in a vacuum. But what is happening right now? What's growing on the lower level compared to like last year or 2021 is going to show dividends, right? We've got players who obviously there's all the talk about like the people who play Slippy and go to one major, that's their first major and stuff like that, and like that's always going to be a thing. But we're also going to see people who play Slippy get super good, go to a regional, get super good, and then go to majors from there, like get established through there. Like we're going to see a lot of that in the future. So talking about the fall is a little weird because we've got two tournaments I think are going to be very big, Riptide, and then one that's going to blow out of the water in Big House. And then we have a couple other things that could be big. Santa Paul's obviously has some top players attached to it. Arkham Melee has some top players attached to it. DreamHack, if that is,
we don't even know if it fucking has Melee. Like,
true,
it probably will, but it's certainly not announced right now.
Yeah,
so
we'll
like,
see how Rise and Grind turns out. Also,
that one I'm super interested to see how that pans out. I would like it to be more than just their Texas regional. Whether or not that happens, we'll see.
I got to talk to Cagd at Shine at or SmashCon.
I roomed with him. I roomed with him at Shine. Yeah, him and RJ. Yeah.
We got a chance to talk about Rise and Grind, and I was like, "Hey, I know this is like a shitty thing to hear, but like, I do think that Melee, it grows in a very interesting way, and not in a way that Ultimate necessarily does, but like, look at the majors we have right now. A lot of the first years they ran, they were not popping, right? Look at Battle of BC now. It's one of the majors that everyone wants to go to, but Battle BC 1 was pretty small. Battle BC 2 was pretty small. Like, they were able to fly out, like, Left and an SFAT or whatever, but it just kind of grew to become this thing where it's like, you see it, and you go, fuck, I want to go. How did I miss that? How did I miss that shit? And then the next year you go, and then you say the same thing, and then your friends go, fuck, I gotta go next year, right? That's like how these tournaments grow. And I talked to Cagden, and I was like, unfortunately, like, you might be at the early years of that, because I know that what that team puts into it, you know, it's Cagged and Grayola, and they've got Gallant Gaming who's running it as well. That team like puts on amazing events, and unfortunately, they're just in the phase where they have to prove it to Melee people. They have 100 setups for Melee alone. I want to repeat that. They have 100 Melee setups.
Oh, wow.
And like their dedication to making it a good experience will pay off, because I think everyone who goes will have a good experience, and then it becomes that type of thing where you go, fuck, how did I miss this event? And like, it sucks to tell someone that, right? And it sucks that like we have to operate on like maybe the first year just won't be that big. But I honestly think that if Rising Grind's not going to be a big event this year, if it's just kind of going to be like the Texas people plus whatever big names they're able to wrangle, I think that next year it like its reputation will be very good. So I don't know. The fall is going to be weird, because I think that it's laying groundwork for what the next year is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's cope, right? Maybe you see like a couple months without big tournaments. But like, honestly, I legitimately look at the schedule, I look at the calendar, and I'm not sure if I see a bona fide super major like that other than like Big House or Riptide. But what I do see is a lot of things that I think will become important in the future, and that's important. So those are my thoughts on it. I feel like I've talked for 10 minutes straight. What do you think, Stock? You're obviously you're very clued into the scene. You're clued into the scene of running events, of like watching events. Like, what do you think of all this?
Yeah, I mean, there'll be some fun ones. I mean, I do know of at least a couple more probably bigger tournaments in November, even though I've kind of removed myself from the TO cabal. You don't lose some of those secrets. You don't lose being tapped in some regards. And I think, yeah, no, I would really hope stuff like Rise and Grind, stuff like Failsafe and New Jersey, all these like small ones. You know who I think is I actually want to touch on this early. Who I think is really going to kind of take the ball, and who I think, interestingly enough, I mean, I'm very comfortable with the people in New England continuing the legacy of like running these big tournaments. I've already heard rumblings of some stuff. I have zero worries with that. Who I'm really interested to see cook is my boy Jake. Nobody knows, because getting the type of interest they're getting in Milwaukee. I mean, Invincible is like a crazy ass event. I mean, that's like its whole thing entirely. But let him cook with like some conventional events like this. I forget the date for that. I know it's already announced.
Dream City Convergence. Just say the name.
Yeah, I want to say it's like in October.
I believe it is September 30th.
Oh, okay. Then, all right. I guess I'll go fuck myself. Yep, September 30th. God, I fucking hate that name, but I fucking love his TOing. He's someone I think really has kind of a good mind for it, and like can kind of get things popping. I mean, for Christ's sakes, that one I know has to have a cap, and they're already at like 185. They seem to be doing like fairly well on the Melee end. That's I mean, they got like 50. It looks like a good amount of like spread across the games. I think the future really is leaning into the multi-game. I've been a multi-game believer forever. One thing that was really cool about Shine is we had like so many weird setups. There was like a double dash tournament going on there. Because here's the thing, folks. Think about it. Here's like a little wisdom, I guess. Say if you use Gaming Gen as a vendor and you want to come up with ideas outside of the box. Those Wii's come with more than Melee, dog. Like that double dash thing was just like a random. We had side people running, and it's like, okay, double dash is already on these. Get it going. You'll never know what kind of like crossover will get certain people over the edge. Like I remember like that Super Mario Strikers, like not Strikers, whatever the fucking baseball one is. I saw stuff like that.
Sluggers.
Yeah, Sluggers. Like seeing like a Sluggers tournament, that's sick. I mean, leaning into more of like the FGC Melee stuff's a good combo. Like, just that's what it all comes about. Not only do you have to like converge a lot within regions, because like I mean, ultimately my biggest secret to how I did so well as a TO is thinking of, because a lot of people used to think of it just of like this region where we're at as like New England and tri-state. I took the approach of like, okay, all these Midwest motherfuckers, all these South motherfuckers always travel to it. And you know why? It's because they view each other as the ATL South and the Midwest. Let's start thinking of it as the Northeast. And as soon as I started thinking like that, that's when shit really started to keep moving. I mean, if I could compare like one for one how many tri state people went to New England like before Gigahog, it's like not even fucking comparable. And you know, it's sad that like I don't have some of these things, and I would not be lying if like a big contributor to some of the things is like a lot of my biggest ideas kind of being snuffed out by COVID. I mean, for Christ's sakes, right before that, the last Gigahog that I ran personally, before I already took over the brand, it was a snowstorm, and like the original cap, we had hit cap already, like, you know, had like 90 people show up in a snowstorm. We literally were gonna have to move out of that basement into a fucking like hall, like concert hall type deal in goddamn Wallingford, Connecticut. Okay, I was cooking, all right, and we still have some good stuff here. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if like the rise of it. So the future to me, in one word, is like view is maybe like as much as the locals are good at some of these gaming shops, go for there. For these regionals, you got to find stuff that had, you know, look at your like, you know, entertainment venues, like how they do Wisdom in like the fucking Mall of America. Look at, you know, perhaps partnering with some conventions at casinos. I mean, GamerCon was big because we've been at Mohegan forever. I mean, people know Mohegan. Look for these brands, and if you can't like partner with some of them, I will say, you know, now that I'm out the game, my big final hurrah before I kind of decided I was gonna put it before Shine, I was really interested in going back to Gillette Stadium, because the Showcase Live venue where we ran Shift, which, you know, for a lot of reasons is the one of my biggest regret tournaments, and also one of my favorite tournaments we ever ran. Monitor Melee sucked back then, sucked really bad. Is, you know, you got to find like unique venues, unique opportunities. You got to think outside of the box, and you got to view it as like the player experience. Like a lot, as cool as it is. I mean, for me, at the end of the day, I think having a stream, I think having a commentator is great. But as a TL, I don't give a fuck about the stream half the time. I'm caring about those players. I want the retention. And there's a reason I built kind of the rapport I did, like not only within like New England and the Northeast, but across the way, because I treat my players well, because, you know, to steal the famous adage, I treat them the way I want to be treated. I was lucky to have people like Emily Waves, like making like Neb such an inviting environment. I was lucky to have people like Rolled Gold bring me in there. Having even the big blue guys give me a chance. I mean, I started off more as a commentator than anything, and like, you know, quite frankly, I was a very naive, like back in those days. I kind of had to have my like kind of rough awakening. And what I'll say is, if you're willing to put in the hours, you're willing to listen, and you're willing to do research across the board, because I studied pretty much, you know, trick of the trade of wanting to know stuff about all these fucking random ass players is that you conversely learn about their regions of their TOs. And even before you get to talk them, I mean, like, God, I wish I had the bandwidth to pull the Nardwar thing off at Shine, because Tuesday had the costume ready and everything. Like, we really could have done it. I really could have pulled up on motherfuckers. There were at least 3 top players. Like, I was talking to Josh, man, and someone was like, "Oh, that's Stock Money." He's like, "You're Stock Money." Like, you're fucking like, I had like been talking to him for like months.
The voice, Edwin.
There, I love pulling that type of thing off. So like,
Wait, let Edwin do his voice. He's gonna do a Josh Man impression.
go for it.
Oh no, I'm not gonna do that at all.
What?
I was going
fuck?
to I was gonna bring up the just like for one event that I think talks about what
You just
what
teased
were
me.
mentioning, thinking of a well, he teased you. I didn't tease you at all.
You do this,
That was
okay?
him.
Fucking, you're gaslighting
All right,
all of us.
give me your point. Give me your point. I'm already.
Do it in the
Oh,
Josh
I
Man
was
impression.
gonna talk about being excited for the Smash Boxing event in Washington.
Do it in a
I'm
Luder
curious
Dusk
to see how
impression.
that'll turn.
Oh shit! I forgot. Oh, I forgot about. Yeah, unique shit like that is sick. That's as long as there's all the safety precautions and whatnot. Because god damn it, I've seen some stupid ass fights at Smash tournaments. I mean, I saw two motherfuckers like the last my mom like fucking getting like a classic ass, like, you know, in the cartoons when they like roll like when like these motherfuckers are like holy shovel with like cartwheel. I literally saw two drunk idiots cartwheel down the fucking mom stairs. And I think you two have been in that fucking place. That's a fucking long thing of stairs, okay? Like, that's not just your average jaunt, all right? So, but no, like, cool ass ideas. People got to be afraid to take risks, not afraid to take risks, think outside of the box, and think about the in person experience rather than, you know, before you start worrying about how your tournament looks to the rest of the scene, worry about how it looks to your scene.
Because
Ingratiate
those
with the people.
actually go, right?
Yeah,
Those are the
put
people
the
who are going to
time
come
in.
back.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you got to put the hours in, and you got to be willing to fucking, you know, have that passion. And also don't work alone, because I would definitely try to shoulder a lot of stuff on. And I've been lucky that in an era where truthfully I have been burned out for quite some time, but what really kept me in is having people like, you know, Khalib, who I like, you know, was one of my first people I really got the chance to kind of mentor way back in Hog, who now, in my opinion, has surpassed me in a lot of ways. I mean, if you were wondering how God like that stream schedule was, like the scheduling of matches was at Shine, that was all him. You have people like Jules, like making like the cool stuff like yearbooks, photo. You need to like, if people are interested and want to learn from you, you got to work with them. You know, because those are the type of people. Because for quite some time, I had this mindset of thinking like I was going to be kind of the one to guide it into the light. But eventually, life circumstances are going to change. Your priorities will shift. And while I have no desire to leave this scene, I know I was losing my desire to kind of be like, you know, one of like the leaders of the New England scene. And not only am I like, you know, I said it earlier in the podcast, I have literally zero fears about my region thriving. If anything, I think that some of them will go on to have an influence on the greater scene that maybe I had in some ways. And I mean, I downplay myself on a lot of that. I'm probably one of the TOs with the biggest egos, but also, you know, constantly doubting myself too. And I think, you know, you got to be willing to fail. You got to be willing to try new shit. You got to be willing to fail and inspire the next generation. So I'm excited to see how a lot of these ones in the fall go. Riptide and Big House are going to kill it. And who knows, maybe we'll have a new big thing in Rise and Grind and Santa Paws. Mm-hmm. But that's my TED talk on it. You got to be willing to innovate, and you got to be willing to take criticism. Because at one point I wasn't, and the moment I did is the moment I started popping the fuck off. So,
you know, I think that kind of runs perfectly into a few of the questions that we have, because I think a lot of the people want to have more insight onto this type of stuff. So we obviously reached out to the patrons for questions. And they put up some good ones. Credit where credit's due. We got some good questions for you. So a lot of it is about New England Melee, but it's the type of stuff that you've been saying. I think that you're, if anyone we're going to ask about New England Melee, I think you're the perfect person. So this one's from Johnny Gamble. This is his questions. Within the subculture of New England Melee, is there any fun story from a local which perfectly exemplifies what makes that subculture unique? So a fun story from a local that kind of is perfectly New England Melee.
The last my mom is like, you know, what I just kind of mentioned with like that cartoon ass cartwheel. Like that was like a very wholesome event. You had like people bringing up like, you know, just all the different generations coalescing, coming together and kind of just like having a good time. And that's really like what it's all about. One of my favorite ones that actually perfectly encapsulates the scene is one of the most recent tournaments we did. One of my last ones. It was called the Sauna, and it was an pseudo invitational event where you guys actually, well, Edwin, you know, did assembled a cabal of New England people and donors to kind of get a top 50 first made, and that inspired a lot of people to grind, and that inspired Sweat, who really has only been in the scene post pandemic, to end up hosting, like, you know, he'll later do a black tie event, but we're like in this like really nice lounge, and we have like all these up and coming players like in kind of a like quaint setting, just absolutely grinding the shit out of Melee, round robin pools, all best of fives, that type of thing. And then, you know, just like hanging out and whatnot. Because at the end of the day, like the New England scene, is all about grinding, but it's all about the social stuff too. You know, I've seen so many friendships be forged across state lines. I've seen people make some of the most insane drives. I mean, what my favorite part about the Gigahog series was I always had the mindset of, okay, like I'm perfectly in between New York. It's a quick train ride for New York, quick drive from New England, you know, unless you're in Maine. But those fuckers actually came more than one human should ever drive from Maine to Connecticut. But you know, that's what you got to do. You create that type of fostering environment. So while I can't, that's the thing, is that I have such a hard time picking just one because I can't think of an event. You know, really, it's some of these ones where like people weren't just coming across state line. What makes you New England an especially unique region compared to a lot of them is that New England is, you know, like compared to like a Midwest, we're geographically speaking not as big as them, but we get all these different state lines converging like all the time and just like, you know, working together to build a strong scene that we almost are considered like one unit in that sense. Whereas you can say that in some ways about like the Midwest or other ones like that. But, you know, and another thing too is like if one thing defined fucking New England and you touched upon it at the beginning, it's the fucking Melee games, okay? Half of our scene, if not 2/3, is here because of the Melee games and stayed because of the Melee games. And, you know, I will say I've said this in like the Discord before. It is public knowledge, but before CSL took it over, myself and Stormcloud were passed the reins by Matt.Zeb to kind of take it over, and you know it ended up getting bought out, unfortunately, and I didn't get the chance to do that. That would probably be one of my biggest regrets because I really think that, and I still think there's room for that type of thing. I really do because every time I think collegiate melee is or collegiate smash is on the verge of dying, people
Look
you
at
know,
Northeastern now.
oh, Northeastern has more people than they ever did. And for fuck's sake, the biggest tournament, the biggest regional in New England post Mage era prior to um, Bust was NSA, Northeastern Smash Attack. And they didn't have nearly the scene they have now. I mean, for fuck's sake, the Northeastern TOs are so good, I literally have them running New Game Plus now. Like, college bracket TOs literally guiding the future of a region. Fucking crazy. So, you know,
It's generational shit, dude.
yeah, I would say overall, Melee games is probably the thing that really is the defining New England experience. This generation of New England, almost all of them are from there, and you know, it fostered a lot of friendships. We have some of the most old school players in the biz. Treeloke is on the verge of retiring, and he's been playing since like 05. You got the Shinde who's been around that long, Matt who's been around not long after that, Trail, all these people. And I think the reason they stay is we're more about I mean, we grind like motherfuckers, but we're so about the player experience. That's what it's always been about. So yeah.
So
Edwin, I think you got another question.
Yeah, this one is from Baller. This is a very good question from Baller.
Picked it out. I don't know. That's a funny thing to say.
Yeah, just,
Baller can come up with great questions, man. I don't need. You know what? The Baller Coalition doesn't need your shit.
Yeah,
I'll say no.
Good question.
I don't even know if you.
I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth.
You know what?
What are your thoughts on
no.
tournament
Take the next one.
content
I'll ask
behind a
this
paywall,
one.
interviews, caster
deserves
cams,
better.
extra content, etc.?
All right, Stock. My good friend
Are
Baller asks,
you
what are your
kidding
thoughts
me?
on tournament
No,
content
I just
behind
said
a paywall?
this.
Interviews, caster cams, extra content,
I
etc.
literally just said this.
Okay, I missed what both of you just said because y'all were having a
Baller
circle
says,
jerk. Someone asked the
no,
fucking
Baller is
question.
asking.
Holy
shit!
shit!
On tournament content behind a paywall,
interviews,
caster cams, extra content,
etc.
I asked it first, and I asked it better. I might add.
You actually asked it way worse, and also you don't represent
why is it
Baller
worse?
Coalition.
Explain it to me.
Rizless. It was just Rizless, dude.
It wasn't Rizless. You're Rizless. You're projecting.
All right, that was projecting. Stock money.
I mean, behind a paywall. I mean, I don't love it personally. Like, I think there's room for like some content like that. I don't think like. I mean, extra content for sure. I mean, look at your guys' model. I mean, like you made so many fucking quality podcasts and like videos that like you have this culture. I love like the patron chat culture of Melee Stats. is what makes it so unique that like we've literally built the fucking family. Do you know how much I look forward to like seeing people I've never like from
Aw.
fucking regions I would have
That's
never
very
like
sweet.
fucking fathomed of like meeting people in my life. I have some of my fucking best online friends that become great. I mean, for Christ's sakes, I have a literal like child, my fucking apprentice, like Erland Rich, like from
True.
fucking this Discord. So I think like what's cool about it is that if you the way you guys do it, I think is like very much there. I think that's a great thing. I personally never tried to really do like paywall stuff as far as like my events are concerned. However, I have seen like the fruits of that labor. Like some stuff I did that was really effective in person and online too was like I kind of had like the carpool model slash like incentivizing like that type of stuff to get people out who usually wouldn't, and then kind of almost pivoting that to online too. I mean, I had people donating like every fucking week stupid amounts of money to DigiHog that like I could just pay out for like a random ass net play tournament. So I think as far as paywalls, I think there's more room for like crowdfunding initiatives without necessarily draining people's wallets that are there. But I also don't think it's inherently like a bad thing to like have like a model of like interviews and like extra content. I don't really know what he means by caster cams, to be honest, but like the other stuff, I mean, and it scales too. Like maybe offer like some maybe just even like one extra content piece for like a couple bucks a month, and then maybe like an interview or an extra podcast episode. That's like the big thing with like podcasts now. Like for example, like one of my favorites is Stiff Socks with like Trevor Lawrence, and like that one they have like an extra episode a week. Like you just pay like $5 and you're getting it feels like you get like more of a intimate experience. So in the same way that I talked so much about like making the players actually deserve to be there, there's room to use to get these people that are that passionate about your shit to do it. I mean, for Christ's sakes, your whole player spotlight, a lot of that on top of like your own capital is built off of the back of people that are passionate about it. So interact with your community and they'll fucking interact with you.
Yeah, I think one thing here is that like we might like we're in a very good position where the kind of the smaller brands are able to have that closer connection, and we just might not see it on a larger scale because logistically, I don't know if it makes a lot of sense, right? If you have, like, I think the idea here is that like, could you pay for premium Genesis experience? It's like, well, how many people are going to buy that? And it probably does not justify the people who have to put the work in to do that, right? Let's say you have interviews that are only available by being on the Genesis Patreon. They have to pay someone to do those interviews, and like if they don't hit that threshold, that might not be worth it. Like let's say you have caster cams, which I guess is just like a camera of the casters that's always on, like stuff like that. I don't know. That's something that obviously we already have, right? We already have cameras that are on our commentators, but like if it's going to be something that they have to put extra thought into, then that might just be more billable hours, right? And it's like, do you actually end up making it? I think it's an interesting idea, and as we like see these tournament series try to make themselves more unique, I think that it's definitely something they could do. But yeah, I think you're right in terms of like if this is going to work, it's going to be smaller brands. I think it's a cool question though. And to round it out, we got a question from Derby. So Derby asks, "What's your dream New England venue location for a major?"
Oh, for a
Loaded
major
question, big one, a
shit.
big one.
Shit. That's
Gillette.
I mean like so I wouldn't say the PAX venue because that one's like a little crazy, but like there were the Boston Convention and Exhibit Center. However, there is one right next to the what's it called? The Prudential Center. There is a conference center right next to there, and that one's pretty cool. One that I was like really happy, like the Heinz Convention Center, rather. That one would probably be. I mean, that's pretty prime location. But I mean, like, if anything, this is gonna sound weird, but I wish we could go back to the fucking George Sherman Union at BU. I think Bust was like gonna fucking hit like we could have doubled that easily and fit it too. Like I'm not even kidding. Like for me it's like it's interesting. I like the fact that we ran the majors, but me personally, I was always kind of like, the I was like very much involved, but I was always like a tier below or a half tier below the super staff because I don't have that type of capital. But running like something like that would be a fucking like dream for me, that type of thing would be definitely the vibe. So probably that, or like there's one in Providence that's kind of cool, but the thing is like you got to think about where people would like actually show up and like
Yeah.
bought like, and that's a big reason why. I mean, as far as viable venues that would still be left, even if Big Blue wasn't like burnt out, there aren't a ton left. But and I did read the questions before this, and I wanted, so that's my answer there. And I did want to answer one more before we go. As far as what I'm doing next, I'm still around. I'll probably do some advisory stuff for some of these events, primarily like Tri-State, maybe more so than New England. But I'm sure if there's a big New England one, I won't necessarily be on the operations end, but I'll definitely be doing it. We talked a little bit about before the show about like traveling. I'm looking to do some more of that. Maybe hit my first. I've never been to a Genesis. The farthest I've ever been for Philly is fucking for Melee's Philly for gang. Okay,
It's crazy.
like I need to travel more shit. For
Let's get
someone
this
as
boy
involved
out.
in it as I am, I want to do more of that. And I want to go back to my first love of commentating. I'm gonna fucking commentate more again. So I put in my dues. I think I really carved a good foundation for the region, and kind of was able to leave my mark on TO history in that sense. But I'm just trying to vibe, but I'm simply not going anywhere. So I wanted to address that too before we closed out.
Stock,
Well,
really quickly, if I could just name one dream venue I have, I don't think it would be like great for like logistics, but I think an invitational at like the Wheatley, it's like a huge hotel in the Berkshires.
Oh
Like
yeah,
it would be so
that
sick.
would be yeah, that would be sick. I actually
Like,
love the idea of like doing more mountainous stuff. Like I know when Rock moves here, he keeps talking about doing like a fucking
yeah.
New England type smash camp. That's like probably other than like going back to some of our old like New England ideas, I'm not gonna fucking spoil what's happening. I know the big one here is wanting to do, and I mean it's almost funny that Connor hasn't thought about coming to literally like perhaps the woodland capital of the fucking East Coast as a smash camp option. So I think that maybe I think that would actually be probably more a dream than anything else. It's funny you mentioned that. I was thinking more of like conventional stuff, but like stuff like the Wheatley, stuff like finding, because we have no fucking shortage of campgrounds, I'll tell you that much. So that type of stuff is what I'd like to see. But I mean, to any new TO in New England, you got an attendee in me for life, or however long I'm with this fucking game. So
well, excited to see what the future holds for both of you and for New England Melee. But let's talk about the president. Let's talk about something that does not include Melee. Of course, we're talking about the last segment that we have right here. This is the formerly unnamed, no, formally, I said it right the first time, sorry. Let me distract the fact. Edwin says watching weird. Okay, so sorry. I needed to distract from the fact that I messed up formally versus formally. It's called Touching Grass. It's not named, but we call it Touching Grass. God, this is the worst Touching Grass intro ever. So it's Stocky, you're obviously no stranger to the show. This is where we talk about stuff that we do outside of Melee, right? We talk about Melee for 2 hours a day, or 2 hours a week on this podcast, and however many other hours during the day. So it's a good chance to kind of talk about something that's going on outside the game. I know you've been super busy with a lot of Shine, but I'm sure there's other stuff. I'm gonna give you guys a second to think of some stuff, and in the meantime, I'm gonna say what I was up to. So, since our last episode, I barely have been home. I left the morning after our last episode to go to Shine. I got to stay an extra day in Massachusetts with a friend of mine. I was gonna say good friend, but I decided against it. No, I got to spend a day with Edwin, and then I came back and immediately was out of the house. I took a train to my home, took a shower, and then immediately took a train out of my house, and it was because of a baseball game. I oddly enough, I did 2 baseball games in as many days. So
I didn't
Edwin,
know that. Oh my
Edwin,
god, you went to 2 baseball games?
this is the big reveal.
he's a sicko.
Edwin and I, we got to we stayed an extra day. Well, he lives there, I guess. We went to see the Red Sox play the Astros, who got destroyed. Dude, I saw some comments and they were like, his career is over because there was a pitcher who came in with a 2.7 ERA and left with like a 13 ERA or something like that. I think he hit 15 at one point. Anyway, suffice to say, they had a close game and they got utterly destroyed. But it was cool to see. You know, I've been to Fenway before, thanks to Edwin. It was cool to go again. Wish the Astros lost because I hate that team. But unfortunately, what can you do? The next day, I got on a plane. I touched down. I get on a train to home. Like I say, I shower. I put my bags down, and I basically get on a train to the city so I can see the Phillies take on the Angels. Got to see Shohei Ohtani live. He was at third base. I was on the third base line.
Dude, fuck.
That's so sick.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
I was talking to my friend, and it was before I I wasn't planning to be back to back, but I was like, I got an email about there being a sale. It was $50 to be in the 100 level on the third base line. And I said, I want to see Shohei Ohtani because the next time I'm going to see him, if I ever see him live, he's going to be on a team I absolutely fucking hate, right? He's going to be the Yankees or the Mets or the Dodgers. He's going to be on some team that I want to blow my brains out that he's on there. So I get to see him. Dude, there's some sloppy-ass plays going on, but we hit 5 home runs from 5 different players. We win 12-7.
Nice.
Great.
It was an amazing game. I'm so glad I went.
God.
So that's basically what's been going on with me is that I haven't had a ton of free time, but the free time I've had that is not involving Smash has just been going to baseball games. So I don't know if I have one in me in the near future, but we'll see. I had a great time in these 2, even if only one was a victory. I don't know about you. I might have just took yours. I don't know.
Well, I can tell you what's been on my mind lately. I spent a bunch of time over the weekend at Shine. Obviously, I spent time with Wheat and going to the Red Sox game and everything. Had a blast and everything. What I'll be doing for the next 4 months, in addition to sort of what I already do, is I've I can't believe I'm talking about this on the show. Maybe this is gonna sound weird because I already kind of do this, but
It's
I'm
fucking
thinking of
touching grass. It's not gonna be weird.
Yeah, and taking it to a new level.
Cave.
I'm honestly just thinking of places to travel with my spouse. Like we've been looking at we've been looking at vacation spots for some time. Like either like maybe not like later this year, but some point like early summer next year. We were just thinking of all these different locations. So we've been researching and reading a bunch and like watching a ton of travel channels. Like currently sometimes every week I get obsessed with a different nation. So I just like become obsessed with learning stuff about it. Like I've lately been obsessed with Namibia lately, which I think is pretty cool. It's like in southern Africa. It's kind of like a pretty small country, or at least the country is like medium sized, but most of it is kind of just like desert.
Yeah, I was gonna say
like,
that's on the desert. I've seen that place looks fucking beautiful, dude.
Yeah, exactly. So I was just looking at all these different sort of like spots where we could stay.
Your ass is not going to Namibia.
Yeah, but I've really enjoyed international
You're
travel.
a fucking hater, dog.
Yeah,
He didn't say anything. He just said,
How many continents have you been to, Edwin, actually? I'm curious.
4.
Shit. What is it? Is it like Africa? Like what else? What have you been to?
South America, North America, Asia, Europe.
Okay. Shit.
I wanted to go to New Zealand, but it's just a bit. Kim is kind of leaning more in the like North America, Central America, like
yeah,
South America.
no, that's
Which,
fair.
I want to be clear. I know Central America is not a continent. I'm just talking about regions. But yeah, no, it's been fun. This year I've done a ton of traveling. So the next 4 months I'm basically just gonna be full on husband mode at home. But we're looking at places to go to together for next year. So that's kind of what I've been up to.
What about you, Stock Money? You've got you obviously just coming off of TOing Shine, but I'm sure you've got some other stuff going on in your life outside of Smash.
No doubt. So I'd actually just finished up. I'm actually pivoting out of higher education, TOing for students. I kept telling everyone I'm TOing for dentists now. I actually just took a new job. I'm going to be working with the parent company of Invisalign, doing helping them kind of be the benchmark of educational events for for dentists, which just means we're going to be, helping them keep their licenses and they'll buy our products and it'll be, a nice little symbiotic fuck show. So that'll be fun. I'm interested to kind of get my feet into. I've been in so many different industries and I've been done so much contract work that I'm looking forward to be kind of more of a permanent deal. I've been playing a shit ton of golf too. That's been kind of like the new hobby. That one's fun.
Nice.
I've obviously done mini golf and driving ranges in my life, but kind of trying my first 18. It's fucking, oh my god, I didn't realize how sunburned you get from that shit. I mean, my ass was like looking like the fucking dancing lobsters from the Amanda show, bro. It was fucked. So that's been fun. I've been doing a lot of that. Honestly, like the thing is Melee for me was so all consuming in a lot of senses. Like outside of like obviously I still hung out with friends, still worked and shit, but like all my other hobbies went to the wayside. That like I'm just kind of really like exploring that stuff again. So that's fun. And on the same note as like Edwin, like me and my girlfriend are like looking at like doing some traveling too. I'm looking forward to like getting back to like Vermont and shit. Kind of like traveling more to New England, but then maybe kind of actually branching off from here too. Like I said, in my future plans thing, I'd love to kind of get some more traveling in, do some more trips that maybe Melee is a part of it, maybe it's not. Just kind of live my late 20s a little bit out, live my best life in this motherfucker. That's all I can really ask. But I'm having fun with it. Life's cool, and maybe I'll get good to golf someday, but unlikely. But it'll be fun. So I'm having a blast. Life's really good right now. I can't complain.
Well, you deserve it. You deserve life to be good. Glad to hear you're having it, and also glad to have you on the podcast. It's good to get to speak to you. I know you've been on a bunch in terms of other Melee Stats podcast deep dives, whatever we've done, but good to have you on an actual waiting for games. It's been too long.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate the invite. I was like so excited when Edwin texted me this morning. I'm like, yes, finally. It's been like, yeah, damn. Okay, I actually was on it. I was like thinking, like, was I on a deep dive? I definitely was. So actually, what's funny is that the only thing downloaded to my phone, for local songs that's like not Spotify is, and it'll automatically play it on Bluetooth. It'll be fucking the O Canada from the fucking one you did with Moki. I locally downloaded that one, and like I'm never gonna delete that because of how much I fucking love it. So no, the honor's all mine, and I mean it's been a privilege being a figure in this community. Like I said, I'm certainly not going anywhere, but it was really it meant a lot for you guys to talk with you guys about Shine. So it
Sure.
means the world. So
I'm glad we got to have you. Hey, if people want to follow you, where can they do so?
just stock money on Twitter. I mean, God forbid you follow me on Instagram, but I'm pretty picky with that nowadays. But I'd be tweeting, I'd be vibing, and I mean, same thing goes for Discord too. If any TOs, if anyone's interested in anything, I'd love to talk shop. I'm done as far as the operational end is concerned, but I'd love to keep inspiring, like or helping out like new generations and whatnot. And I mean, if any majors are trying to have a motherfucker seed some shit other than this guy, not that I'm trying to fucking poach, not that I'm trying to poach shit. I'm certainly not, because that's your
stay
fucking
off my
lane.
corner.
Or
stay out of my territory.
or commentate, more so commentary. I'm trying to get involved more in that. So I'm simply just a DM away.
So. All right, man. Thanks for being on. Great episode. Glad we got to talk to you. And everyone, thanks for watching. We had a blast talking about Shine, and we'll be back to talk about Riptide. Dude, we're really in the thick of it, but I'm excited to talk about it. Smash is just so excited right now. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. We'll be back. See ya.